Did they make
No,
contact?
I don't know. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Right Look there. At this.
Moves him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again.
You hear that wheel spin, Benny?
Yeah, I did hear that wheel spin.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go.
Maine really turned around. Made a Riley's cage up.
Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D.Y., joined by my two best friends, Matt, the Statman Reilly, and Eric, Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Ryan Blaney type of weekend, going back-to-back weeks in the Nascar Cup Series. And fun fact, this is the first season in Ryan Blaney's career that he has multiple wins. I thought that was a really cool little stat. He is the big winner of the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. We're on every single podcast platform, plus YouTube every Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. Or no, every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Podcast drops Monday night. Make sure you follow us at Bump the Letter and Run Pod on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook at bumpandrunpod.com. Fellas, how'd you enjoy the Daytona weekend? In fact, Daytona Ron enjoyed the Daytona Monday. He watched it on delay. We'll get into that. But Matt, how's your weekend first?
It was nice, man. It was nice. Hey, did you guys know before I get into my weekend that this is the first time in Ryan Blaney's career that he's got multiple wins?
It's a pretty cool stat, man. Yeah, it's a great stat.
It was nice. My weekend was good. Did a lot of running around Saturday, so the rain postponement of the Xfinity race on Friday kind of screwed me.
Yeah.
Didn't get to see any of it.
Did you get to see any of the highlights? Because there was a great finish in that race.
Some of them, but my Saturday was all geared towards the Cup race. You know, I had everything like planned out as far as all like the errands that I had to run, like pretty much up until whatever 7 o'clock, pretty much until the pre-race started. So, but yeah, I loved it. It's like always bittersweet Saturday night races because like I've said in the past, like you can always cut loose on Saturday nights and really enjoy the race, but then Sunday there's really not much to do, but recover, lick your wounds. I mean, I know, you know, as a big football fan, you know, the season's about to start with the NFL. So at least, you know, you'll have the NFL coming up soon. But for yesterday, it was kind of a licking the wounds type of day.
Go out and cut the grass, you know.
We've got a big weekend coming up with the Darlington throwback. Well, I'm still calling it the Darlington throwback race, even though they threw it back in the first race. And then we've got Notre Dame football is back. So it is a huge week coming up here.
Oh yeah. How about you, Eric? You were out of town. You were in the mountains of Pennsylvania at some dam. What's the deal here with what are you doing out there?
I was at a music festival in Austin, PA.
The Austin Dam.
The Austin Dam, the Dam Show. And it's a little music festival, small, tiny, maybe I'd say only about 500 people total there. Yeah. And it's at the spot where this old dam used to be that, you know, it tragically broke, and a couple, you know, I think like 60 people might have died back when that happened, when it flooded and broke. And now they hold music festivals there, and it's absolutely gorgeous. There's a nice little creek that runs through where we were cooling off and bathing all weekend long because it was hot, it was humid, and, you know, we're dancing around, and I got all sorts of, you know, banged up over the weekend. And, you know, unfortunately that caused me to, you know, miss all of the racing. But like you said, Whitey, today I went back and I rewatched the race, and I had no idea what was going on because I managed to leave my phone in my truck from Thursday till today and not look at it once as far as social media, anything. Played games on it to keep all the distractions and spoilers away from me. And I'll tell you what, I had a blast watching it today at home, and I was super excited with the product that I did see today.
Yeah, I don't know how you stayed away from your phone for 4 days. I feel like in this day and age, it's like, how do you even do that? I don't even like going to the bathroom without my phone, where I'm like, oh, this is kind of boring. kind of boring.
I started that habit years ago, Whitey, trying to pull myself away from the social media and being on my phone a lot, it's not something you could do overnight for sure. And something I've been working on. So it wasn't actually that hard for me because normally I could kind of care less where my phone is to begin with.
I'm going to have to start practicing now because I'm going to be in a similar situation in a couple weeks for actually I was telling you guys for the cutoff race at Bristol. I've got a wedding that night. And so I'm going to attempt to just completely shut my phone off, record the race, and then watch it the next day. But I'm going to need some tips because unlike Eric, I'm ashamed to admit it, but like I am literally addicted to my cell phone. Like I can't put it down and I hate that about myself, but I'm going to have to start weaning myself off of it in the next couple of weeks leading up to that wedding. So I can do the same thing and really watch the Bristol night race and enjoy it the next day.
I keep telling you, man.
That's like I said, I put the games on my phone. So like I was on my phone, but like everything off. I'm still on it. Like, cause what are you going to do when you go to the bathroom? I know everyone does it. You need some entertainment. How many Suave shampoos could you read? You know what I mean? Like
you gotta play a little Tetris.
Yeah. So, a couple games here and there, Matt, should get you through. So you still have the phone.
I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm telling you, for this wedding, just sneak off over to the bar area every now and then. Every wedding venue has like a little bar area with a TV that you can see the race somehow. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but I like to consume the race. Like I need to watch it. I want to watch it. I want to take in what's going on, especially with Bristol. It's a cutoff race. It's the playoffs. I'm just going to do myself the favor so I don't ruin it on myself. And I'll watch it the next day and just do everything in my power to I might keep my phone on, put it on like maybe airplane mode so I don't get like texts and everything.
Yeah.
And just do it that way.
I tell you what, I enjoyed the weekend here. I like Saturday night races, man. Cause like you said, like you kind of organize your whole day, get to Saturday night. I went up to our buddy Shrey's house. Him and his wife invited a couple of us up to watch the race, watched it with the Mavericks and stuff like that. So it was a great time up there, but like you said, Sunday, man, it's like, oh, now what do I do? I was like a horse without a dog. I didn't know where to go. I was just roaming around aimlessly all day long,
bumping into walls,
and I'm like, oh man, I need some racing.
What do I do with my hands?
What do I do with my hands? But yeah, I thought it was a great race weekend. We'll of course break it down. But you want to get into the last week in news first?
Yeah, there was actually some interesting news this week.
Yeah, so the first piece of news happened earlier last week. Bad news for Chicagoland Speedway, which kind of was one of my favorite tracks, especially towards the end there. Put on some great racing. But of course, throughout last year with the pandemic and everything, we never went back. And there's been rumors for years now that they were going to sell off all the land to developers to make some like distribution centers and stuff like that. The land is very valuable where it is now. Back in the day when they built the track, nothing was out there. It wasn't really worth anything. Now it's like a booming area. But apparently the mayor of Joliet wants the speedway to be repurposed for the Chicago Bears. I guess the Bears don't have their own stadium. So
yeah, they do. They sure do. They have Soldier Field.
Yeah, but they share it though, don't they?
I don't think so.
I don't know. That's
what I didn't mean to like call you out. I'm just confused because maybe practice facilities.
I don't know. I was just going by what I heard on TMZ last week. Pistol Pete said they share it with someone and they want their own dedicated facility. So let's see. Doing a little quick Googling. I could have swore it was
Yeah, because the only people that share stadiums is the Giants and the Jets.
Yeah.
And when you go out west.
The Rams and Chargers in LA.
But does Major League Soccer use it though? I think maybe Major League Soccer uses it.
But MLS uses a lot of NFL stadiums.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's something. I didn't mean to get bogged down here, but that's interesting.
Maybe they just want to do a complete rebuild because, I'm sure Soldier Field, I know that's a legendary stadium. So, I'm sure it could probably, instead of maybe upgrading Soldier Field, maybe it's easier to tear down Soldier Field rebuilt completely where Chicagoland is.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get into the weeds there. I just thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys caught me off guard. I just read the headline. I didn't even fucking read the whole article, to be honest with you. So
thanks, TMD.
Yeah,
we're like investigative journalists here.
Anyways, the bigger news happened on Saturday before the Cup race, and the internet went crazy over something because not only did we get confirmation that Kurt Busch was officially joining 2311 to drive the number 45. Matt, you called that number a couple of weeks ago, but the car numbers are moving, and we got our first look at the car numbers moving, and the internet had a meltdown. And I will agree, the numbers were super far up to the front wheel, and it did not look great. But Denny Hamlin had to go on social media, calm everybody's horses down, and say that's not the official placement. NASCAR hasn't given us any dimensions or parameters of where the number is going to be. That was just their designer that put it there. So the internet can calm itself down and relax about the number placement.
A little teaser for a little later on in the show is that Mr. Dennis Hamlin is like a master at being calm, and that's just the teaser we'll get into it.
I know what you're talking about, and it's very impressive. And I have a point with that too that we'll get into, something I noticed with another sport. And but yeah, we'll get to that. What's that in your checkers?
Yes, actually. Yep.
All right. Well, we're super close to checkers and records because there's not a whole lot of news. If you weren't watching this weekend, Kyle Larson won the regular season championship, and Kaz Grala, who was running a part-time schedule for the Cup Series, he got a little bit of an injury at Daytona. He's on crutches and a temporary air cast after his wreck. He got into it with Kyle Busch. Apparently Kyle Busch came down. I think he T-boned him. I don't specifically remember seeing the incident, but Kaz Grala injured. Hopefully he could get mended up. But that's all the news I have for this past week. Do you guys remember anything that stands out news-wise?
No, I think we got it all.
No, I mean, honestly, it's just kind of stories that we knew where they were going. It's just, here's the official word, like Chicagoland, that's nothing new. I honestly, once we didn't go back last year or this year, I didn't think we were ever going to go back, which is unfortunate. I think it is a great track. Same thing with Kurt Busch
remember
and the numbers.
I'll always, I know I briefly brought it up last week. I'll always remember Chicagoland for that last lap battle between both Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch a few years ago.
Absolutely.
It was like the most intense last lap I've ever seen. I'll never forget it.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'll remember Chicagoland for.
All right. Well, you guys want to jump into the NASCAR history then? So, like last week, it's this week in NASCAR history, but it's not actually this week, but it pertains to this week's race, Daytona 2001. It was the summer race, traditionally held on the 4th of July weekend. Now it's the regular season finale. Well, let's go back 20 years, just 5 months after the death of one of the sport's biggest stars at that very track. The Pepsi 400 was underway. The months leading up to the race were somber as the jovial mood that once surrounded NASCAR's tracks had turned to a traveling memoriam as grieving fans showed up to the track to pay homage to one of the greatest. Weeks and months after Dale Earnhardt's death, there was a cloud among the track. At the Daytona 500 earlier that year, of course, Michael Waltrip finished 1 and 2 with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, the team owned by Dale Sr., as the owner would perish in the last lap wreck in turn 4, blocking for his team and his son to go for that 1-2 finish. With uncertainty in the sport and with uncertainty where DEI would go in the future now that Senior had passed, DEI had yet another 1-2 finish. This time, the son, the Junior Earnhardt, would take the checkered flag. As the two DEI drivers celebrated together, there was almost a calming effect of the fans of the sport as they cheered for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Michael Waltrip. The healing process had begun. And that happened not this week, but at this week's track. 20 years ago, of course, the iconic summer race in 2001. And if you want to see a cool inside look, fantastic documentary about the whole entire events leading up to the Daytona 500 and Michael Waltrip's career in general, blink of an eye. Absolutely amazing documentary. But I think we would be remiss not to talk about that iconic Dale Jr. win at Daytona in the summer of 2001 and that healing process beginning to go, you know?
That every summer when we get to Daytona, obviously, you see the replay of it and everything. And that's not only my favorite NASCAR moment, but that's my favorite sports moment. It brings a tear to my eye every time. I know that's kind of corny and cheap, but yeah, it does. I mean, it
gets you in the cockles of the heart, you know?
It was one of the most important moments in NASCAR history, honestly. And that blink of an eye documentary with Michael Waltrip is fantastic. I've seen it 3 times, and all 3 times I've gotten a little teary-eyed myself during watching those too. So, yeah, just a really important moment in our history.
Absolutely. Last week too, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was on the Morning Drive with Pistol P and Mike Bagley, and they asked him about the 2001 Pepsi 400, and he was talking about the finish, that iconic finish where he just kind of slides into the grass to celebrate, you know. And he said like he knew he had done something, but he didn't want to go to victory lane. He wanted to celebrate right there in front of everybody. He's like, victory lane, it's kind of, you get there, it's kind of this process. They're at commercial, you have to sit in your car. It's very like rigid. He wanted natural reaction when he jumped out. And I thought that was really cool. And I mean, 20 years later, they do that. They do it at every race. They jump out of the car right in front of the fans. Kind of a game changer if you think about it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Everyone's doing the burnouts at the end of the race as long as you don't have to save those engines. But yeah, that's the NASCAR history for this week. I mean, I just think you go to Daytona in the summertime, you got to talk about it, especially on the 20-year anniversary, which was last month. So, but you guys want to jump into the current race weekend, go over it. The trucks were not on track. The Xfinity Series race, we had, speaking of 1-2 finish, it was a 1-2-3 finish for Colleague Racing, and Justin Haley won at Daytona again. I tell you what, Justin Haley, he's a great super speedway racer, and Colleague Racing, get in on the ground floor. They're going to be great. I think they're going to be great when they go to the Cup Series. I can't wait for next year to see what they do.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. It might take a year or two, but I think they've really got the ball rolling there, and something special is going on for sure.
Oh yeah, and of course the Cup race. We already told you, Ryan Blaney scoring his 3rd win on the season. There's only a couple drivers with 3 wins on this season. He's one of them. Alex Bowman, Martin Truex Jr., and then the only person that has more than 3 wins is, of course, Kyle Larson. So Ryan Blaney really showing what he could do this year, and I've been impressed. I feel like we rode out all of Team Penske a couple of weeks ago, and Ryan Blaney's starting to fire it up. So I'm wondering, could Ryan Blaney be in the championship 4? Can he run for a championship?
I saw a stat today about him where it's like over the last 10 races, he has a 6.5 average finish.
Yeah.
Like he's at the end of this summer stretch and the end of the summer, man, he has absolutely turned it on. And, I always expected him to do this. And this year is the year that he's finally stepping up and breaking out of that, one win every once in a while, kind of like how Kurt Busch has been doing. He's good for that one win.
Yeah.
And I think we all were waiting for him to get that multi-win season, and I think he's going to continue to do that. I think he finally has that calmness about him, the wherewithal of knowing that he is a veteran in the sport right now, even though he's super young still.
Yeah.
But I think that calmingness of knowing you're a veteran driver and you've been around the block for a few years now, and the comfort level, and I mean, I don't know, maybe knowing what was going to go on with Brad Keselowski and all of that, maybe that eased his mind a little bit too, knowing that he wasn't going to, if there's anything in the Penske, it's just like, okay, let's just go. As long as I do what I got to do, let them be the distraction and let me go under the radar. Let them talk about Logano and Brad and what's going to happen there, and them and Blaney said, hey, you talk about those guys, I'm going to perform on the racetrack. Very impressed with him in the last month or so in the summer.
Absolutely. Sorry, Whitey.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think you're right too. I think Blaney just likes to show, like, make his performance talk for him. He's not a big talker, you know. He'll come off with some dry humor here and there, but when it comes to like interviews, he's all business. But he's super cool about it, man. There's just something cool about Ryan Blaney.
Some guys just have a natural coolness.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Kenseth, very quiet, but he has that dry one-liner that he'll have here and there.
Yep.
And like the reporters always love to talk to Kenseth and mess with him because they got that dry humor out of him. And yeah, I could see Blaney definitely being among those guys where, you know, not talked about, but always performing well.
Blaney is like one of those guys, like I'll actually make a bold statement right now. I think if anyone's ever going to dethrone Chase as most popular driver, I think Blaney has a really good shot at doing it. I think he's a super popular guy amongst the fans. Like I said, you know, he's just got a coolness about him. You know, the old saying, ladies want to be with him and the guys want to be him, you know?
Yeah. He's kind of like a modern Tim Richmond in that way. You know, he's got a lot of lady fans out there pulling for Blaney. And he rocks a good mustache too, like Tim Richmond. So
yeah, he does. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But Eric, I was surprised when you said that he's averaging 6th place finishes over the last 10 finishes. I thought that was pretty interesting. Just goes to show, like, you know, people like to talk about momentum and stuff, but just consistency alone like that could drive the momentum. And yeah, good for Ryan Blaney. Capitalizing on what is, and you want to know what the thing is too? Like, people say like, oh, Daytona, it's a crapshoot, anyone could win. There is a true art though, and you always see Ryan Blaney up front contending for the wins at Daytona regardless. So it's not, he's won at Talladega before. It's not like a fluke win back to back. Like, that's a true talent right there. And I can't say enough about him, man. He's killing it. And you want to know what? Good for Todd Gordon, his crew chief, who's retiring at the end of the year. You know, last week at Michigan, they're like, oh, is this Todd Gordon's last career win? And then he pulls out another one, you know? So I thought that, I mean, good for, I know we like to dog Team Penske over on this podcast, but good for the Blaney 12 car, you know?
And don't forget about the Roval either. I mean, Blaney won the inaugural Roval, and he's always up front for the Roval as well. So he might have another 1 or 2 wins left in him before this is all said and done this year.
Oh yeah.
So did he get bonus points too for winning that race? He got some playoff bonus points. What, 15?
No, 15's for regular championship. He got 5 bonus points.
Five.
Okay, 5. Oh yeah, the Larson got that extra 15.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So just some quick stats for the race. Of course, we had 8 caution flags for 31 laps, including 1 red flag, 45 lead changes among 15 different drivers. And your top 5 was Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Newman, Ryan Preece. 3 out of 5 were named Ryan. And 1, Tyler Reddick, baby, locking up that last playoff spot, getting himself a top 5 finish at Daytona. What'd you guys think of the race? You want to jump into the race grades?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, Eric, since it's super fresh in your mind, you just watched it today. How'd you feel about it?
And he is Daytona Ron.
And he's Daytona Ron. This is your track. The expert.
You know, if you didn't like that race, you just don't like entertainment. You just don't like to be excited. You, let alone do you even like NASCAR racing in general. If you didn't like that, you're just dead. You just feel no emotion whatsoever because that was incredible. The beginning of that race was the first stage was super aggressive. The drivers, I didn't, you know, last week I said, I don't know if how aggressive they're going to be. Man, were they aggressive.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good saves that had to go down in that first stage. I thought the battle all day long, you know, that playoff spot, watching that for you, Whitey, and the whole AD thing was awesome to watch. Larson and Denny, I thought that was interesting how Larson was aggressive, how he didn't just say, you know what, I'm going to stay in the back. He said that in the beginning of the race, and I'm like, man, I go, Dana, I said, you know, I've seen 4 Gibbs cars get taken out in the back there, so
You're not safe
never,
anywhere,
You're not safe anywhere.
Yep.
But him swapping with Denny, like, he noticed Denny came to the back and his crew chief was like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I'm going to go up to the front. I got to go opposite of Denny. If he wants to play that game, I'm going to get aggressive. And, that's risky.
That was a fun battle to watch, too, for that regular season championship. It wasn't locked up going into Daytona, and that was really interesting.
And something else that I noticed, too, was, the way that the cars were handling, the drivers felt that early in the race because the package was different from the last time we were at Daytona. And some of the drivers, they kind of had to get used to the feel of the car. They didn't know if the engine was bogging down or if they were just getting these super big runs and then, they would just die off quick from them. So, De Benedetto actually mentioned, he's like, whoa, he's like, I don't know. I don't really like this. I'm going to the back because this is getting a little too crazy up here for me. It was just awesome. Like, I didn't know this, but Steve Letarte had mentioned Ross Chastain in the beginning of the race. They were talking to him and his crew chief and, they're like, what is your plan? And Ross is like, well, I want to be a car up front so that come the end of the race, cars know how my car is going to react, whether it be a pusher, you know what I mean, or a pull along. Know that I'm willing to race up front with you because, like, if you are in the back all day and then you're up front at the end, no one knows your car. No one knows what you're going to do. So sometimes that's not the greatest strategy.
Yeah, they might not want to work with you. They leave you hanging out to dry.
Yeah, and then Steve Letarte he mentioned something that I thought was interesting. We're always talking about rules and how to gain advantage. And someone asked, like, hey, about the temperatures in the car and what they normally will allow the max temp to be. And Steve Letarte said, well, that's kind of a secret in the garage area.
That's when Chase had the debris on the front of his car. He said that,
Certain people, that's where there's within the rules where you could get an advantage. So certain teams are engineering their cars to maybe run better or not blow up when their car temps get it to a certain level. So I was pretty happy to hear a little insight into like what these teams are doing besides the ride heights. What are some other little things that they could do to gain advantage on their competitor and manufacturing the engine temp to maybe be able to handle little higher temps?
Yeah.
Hey, that could win you a race. You saw McDowell blew up.
That's really interesting. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so I thought that was super interesting when he said that too. Yeah.
So
what was your race grade?
Oh, A+.
Okay.
A+.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah, A+. It just right off the gate. There's no way you could not be an A+. It checked all the boxes. Like I said, I like to check the boxes off. And man, it was hard for me to find, coming up later, the checkers and wreckers and stuff. Like it was hard to find a wrecker because it was so good. And that third stage, just the action, like I was taking notes for the show in the first two stages, kind of giving myself some mental things to pull up while we're having this conversation. In the third stage, I just was so focused and glued to the TV screen. I just couldn't keep my eyes peeled away.
I agree.
So a little callback to anyone who listens to the show on a regular basis. Eric, back in Talladega, we had to talk you off a ledge, brother. We had to get you back on the super speedway train, and it sounds like you're all the way back.
Well, I will get into that later on.
Okay. All right. You're going to wreck yourself. I know you.
All right.
All right.
How about you, Matt? What was your race grade? I assume it's something similar with Eric.
Dude, I am giving out my 5th A+ of the year, man. That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mirror everything Eric said there. From the drop of the green flag, it was as aggressive as we thought / hoped it would be.
Yeah.
Some guys went over that limit a little bit, and I'll talk about that a little later on. And some guys were right on that limit. And but I mean, they were like, it was organized chaos out there, like it always is in a super speedway, right? Like those guys, I don't know if it was because they were going 10 or 15 miles per hour slower than they're used to on the super speedways, but they were like in control the entire time. How many times did we see almost accidents?
There were some great saves.
I think was it Kyle Busch? Eric,
yes.
It's fresh on your mind because you watched it today.
Busch. Yeah, Kyle Busch. It was right. It was like near like the stage end, and like he
He lost it,
like,
but saved it.
When you go right like that, Dale Jr. even stopped right in during when it happened. He goes, woo! He goes, not many people are going to hold on to that race car. He goes, but Kyle Busch, he goes, when you go right, normally you're going into that wall and going back down the racetrack. It's like, he goes, man, that was a good save by Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I had a few, and when I say a few, I mean a lot on Saturday night. So the details got a little fuzzy. Details get a little fuzzy. You guys know how it goes. So it's always good to have someone rewatch it right before the show.
Yeah.
That's
but Matt,
good.
like you're saying, I think the package had a lot to do with, the way that they raced. I think they felt more comfortable around one another because they knew they could bump the person in front of them, and they weren't really going to get too crazy out of hand as far as handling goes. So yeah, it was impressive to see those runs that they would get and then fall off.
Yeah. And for the most part, they raced clean. Like there was a lot of respect out there, at least from the outside looking in. It looked like there was a lot of respect out there. So, I mean, I won't get too much further into it because I know Whitey, you still have to go, and I'm assuming you're going to mirror a lot of what we're saying. But it was an A+ for me. I loved it. I love super speedway racing, and I can't wait to get to Talladega, the last super speedway of the season here, coming up in a little bit.
Yeah, I gave it an A+ too, and not just because my guy got into the playoffs, but that was a huge storyline going into this weekend. Like that was the storyline. It was the regular season championship. It was the cutoff position. Both battles were fun to watch all day long, and just the battles in general throughout the racing was absolutely amazing. Like Eric said, some of those saves were just crazy, and Matt, you said there was some respect and everything, and there definitely was. But you could see the guys who were really pushing it, like the Corey LaJoys and Ross Chastains, where they were being aggressive, but they weren't driving over their heads. I was screaming at the TV though at Corey LaJoy the whole entire time, where I'm like, you shouldn't be up here, but
a couple times,
a couple times. But at the same time, that's what brings excitement at Daytona. And I mean, for people that say like, oh, week in, week out, you can't pass. Well, we had, 45 lead changes at Daytona. That we saw a ton of passing. Of course, the big one comes with super speedway racing every year, and people don't like it. I don't like to see cars get junked up either, but you want to know what? They saved it until the third stage. They didn't drive in over their head in the first stage like they did at the 500.
It's when it matters.
And then, it's calculated aggression.
Yes.
Calculated aggression. But yeah, given an A+ all around, everything I want to see. Like that was the race that I was excited to see going into Saturday. Just super entertaining. Can't really complain about anything. Like you said, Eric, I had a hard time figuring out what my records was. And my records, like, honestly didn't affect me, but I know it affected some people online. So I just went with that. I'll tell you what it is in a little bit. But yeah, absolutely amazing race. Oh, and for anyone at home that doesn't know what we mean when we're talking about the package produced better racing this time. They bumped down the horsepower by 40 since the last Talladega super speedway race to try to keep cars from getting airborne, which it succeeded. We didn't see any cars get airborne this past weekend, and Kevin Harvick got hit exactly like Joey Logano did at Talladega, and that car lifted off the ground. Kevin Harvick lifted maybe an inch or two off the ground and then was right back down. So the lift-off point, not a factor when it came to this super speedway race, which is exactly what you want to see. You don't want to see cars get taken off and thrown into the catch fence or thrown into someone else. So yeah, awesome race, like A+, like best race of the season.
Yeah. Oh, that was
it was great.
It was phenomenal. It was absolutely, like you said, buddy. It was. It's hard to give. We don't like to give out a lot of A+ because it's got to hit those boxes. But man, an A+ when you watch a race, and that one was. It was. If I could give it a fucking an A+++++, I would.
You're like
right
the
now.
teacher in A Christmas Story, just A+, plus. You guys want to get into the checkers and wreckers though? Matt, what's your checkers?
Yeah, so I kind of teased it a couple minutes ago, but my checkers goes to Dennis Hamlin. NBC did an amazing job.
Hell yeah.
James Hamlin. NBC did an amazing job showing the different drivers' heart rates throughout the race.
Yeah.
And I know they always have like shown like the little monitors that are like on like the side of the headrest in the cars, but they actually had like a graphic for it, which I think was new this week. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, it's a sponsor, Whoop, I think.
Yeah. I saw it during like I saw it during like I think a soccer game or something when I was flipping through the channel too. Anyway, they had that heart rate monitor on there, and good old Dennis hovered around a 95 beats per minute average the whole race. And just to put that into perspective, everybody else that they were showing was in like the 150, 160 range. And it was super impressive to me. I mean, the guy had a better sustained heart rate in the middle of a pack at Daytona than I do at rush hour on Route 11. You know, it was so impressive. And that just shows you, one, the shape that he's in. He's in really good shape. And two, how calm he is. Like, he knows what he's out there to do. He knows what he's doing. He's a veteran in the sport. There's no panic. He's out there on a Sunday drive. And I was so impressed by that. So I hope NBC keeps that going throughout the playoffs, especially with the high intensified situations that we're going to run into here in the next 2 months. I think that's a really cool little thing to have there, graphic.
So yeah, that was fun to watch. I agree, that was fun. Even Dana, my girlfriend, she's like, "Oh, look at Denny Hamlin, like his heart rate and stuff." Like, so I'm sure a lot more people. It's just another something cool and interesting that you give the fans a deeper look into the sport, and I feel like NASCAR does that the best.
Yep.
So, Matt, you texted me about that on Saturday night. You're like, man, Denny Hamlin, 95 beats per minute. And my regular heartbeat, like just walking around and stuff, is usually around like 85, 90. I'm out of shape, though. Like, I've always had a high heart rate. Even as a kid, I would go, you remember being a little kid, you check your like blood pressure in that little sleeve at the grocery store? My heartbeat was always like super high. I don't know why. I'm on high blood pressure medicine and stuff like that. But but you said that, I'm like, oh, 95. And then yesterday in our group chat, one Kevin Dowse was watching the whatever golf was on.
I noticed
on Sunday, and he sent a video, and they also had the heart rate monitor. Of course, the golf tournament or whatever was on NBC. So I assume it's some sort of cross promotion. But the golfer's heart rate was like 126, and it just got me thinking, because like golf is supposed to be like a relaxing sport. He was putting, and his heart rate's at 126. And then Denny Hamlin's wheeling a car at like around 200 miles per hour, around 40 other guys. And his is at 96 beats per minute. I just thought that was absolutely insane. And just goes to show you, to a testament, how calm, cool, and collected Denny Hamlin is on Super Speedway. And like I said earlier, he's another one of those guys you see up front. I know Daytona is a supposed like wild card, but you're a good super speedway racer or you're not, and he is definitely one of the best, if not the best, out there right now. But how about your records? What was your records for the weekend?
Yeah, so there's on super speedways, well, really on any track, there is a fine line between being aggressive and being reckless. And I thought two guys in particular crossed over that line and were just reckless. One is Ross Chastain, and the other is Chase Elliott. Okay, I hate to have to say that, but it's true. So in Chastain's case, there's a thin line, like I said, between being reckless and aggressive, and it seemed like he was reckless all night. There was a couple instances that he got lucky that the big one didn't happen because of something that he did. And then the one that he, finally did cause, he was trying to fit into a line that I thought he had no business trying to fit into, and it wrecked out Martin Truex Jr. It temporarily hurt Reddick.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that was I had to wreck him there. And then for Chase, I mean, he threw that block on Matty D with just a couple to go that I just thought was so unnecessary. There's a few laps left, but there's plenty of time to regain that spot back, especially with as good as Chase is on plate races and as talented as he is. I just thought it was it was meaningless to throw that wreck or to throw that block, and then it caused the wreck.
Did you hear what he said during the post-race interview though? He did take an atonement for it. He goes, I threw it a little too late. I shouldn't have done that. So
well,
so at least he owns up to it.
In the middle,
he's good at owning. He's good at owning up to it. I mean, I don't think you'll ever hear Ross Chastain own up to
throwing aggressive moves either, though.
No,
that goes to show you the
or
difference.
Joey Logano.
Yeah.
But I felt like I didn't want to talk out of both ends of my mouth. I don't like being hypocritical. So if I had to wreck Chastain, I had to wreck Chase as well.
Yeah.
I even said it that night. I think Shrey said it in our group chat. That was all Chase's fault, and he's right. It was.
Yeah.
So you can't defend that move. I expect more out of him. He's our defending champ, and he's one of the most talented guys we have. So I just expected a little bit more out of him, and I was upset that I truly believe it cost him a win. So.
In the moment, though, you don't want to get sucked in the middle. And I think that it went through his head. Okay, if I don't, I'm in the middle. If I don't go up in front of him, I am done. He's not losing one spot. He's losing multiple spots.
He's losing 15 spots. It's insane how quickly you get sucked into that middle.
In a split second, he's thinking, oh, I don't want to get stuck in the middle and hung out to dry. I see a gap. I'm going to try to. And it was just,
and DiBenedetto just had a huge run on him that he it closed way too quick. So I agree. I agree.
Because if DiBenedetto, he couldn't choke up, because if he choked up, then he had a huge run that was going
in the back of him. Yeah.
So it was just it was really a bad situation to be in for everybody.
Yep.
I tell you what, I was appreciative for it, though. I didn't want to see Mac D win. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah. No, you did not.
How about you, Eric? What was your checkers and records for the weekend?
All right. So my checkers goes to the AD Reddick battle. I found myself watching that the most because they kept getting involved and stuff kept happening to them. It couldn't have worked out any better as far as for a fan. I know Whitey was probably driving you up a wall, but for me, it was like, oh man, this is just adding to the excitement of this playoff battle in this final spot. And I thought Austin Dillon drove the freaking wheels off of that car, man. He knew that he had to win in order to advance. They figured out the points. He could, if he didn't get enough, he needed 10, and he's like, nope, he got told, you need to win. And as soon as they told him he needed to win, did he start wheeling that thing?
And at the end of that, he had a rocket ship too. He really did. They gave him a great car.
To pull out a line at the end of that stage and make that aggressive move to finish ahead of Reddick.
Yeah.
It was only by a spot or two, but that just showed, hey, I'm here.
Yep.
Can we just talk about real quick? I know we haven't talked about it yet, and I hope it's not one of your guys' checker, or I hope, Whitey, it's not your checkers. That battery swap out that they did with Steve,
phenomenal.
Steve Letarte breaking it down as it was happening. It was just a thing of beauty.
See,
Matt, that's right in with mine. Yeah, everything about that whole situation was awesome.
Yeah.
Reddick and all that. Everything was that whole thing was just exciting. And I haven't found myself that excited over a little playoff battle for the end than I was watching that race today. That battle back and forth, teammates too. So that was just awesome to watch.
I didn't get to follow the whole battery situation with Austin Dillon because, so when the red flag came out, I was at our buddy Shrey's house, of course, and I used that. We left the dog at home in the crate, and I'm like, okay, we're getting to the time. We gotta let the dog out. It's been too long. We gotta run home. Perfect opportunity to leave. I left Shredder's house. I go, it's red flag. I'm going now, and Tyler Reich's gonna get a top 5. I said goodbye to everybody, and I took off. And so I was listening to the MRN broadcast, and they were talking about the battery problems. Like, okay, Austin Dillon has a battery problem. They swapped out the battery, but it's still draining the new battery and stuff. So I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. I didn't get to see the Steve Letarte breakdown, but I think, and I'm gonna say something real bold. I got a hot take. I know Larry McReynolds is America's crew chief. I think Steve Letarte is the new America's crew chief. I think the way he breaks down just what's going on from a pit box standard, I love it. I think he is the best when it comes to doing that stuff.
Did you hear about that controversy last week? But
I did. Apparently, Dale Jr. The last couple of weeks was calling Steve Letarte America's favorite crew chief, and they picked up on it
on purpose as a little jab to Larry. As a friendly jab to Larry, and then Larry and Danielle Trotta on the SiriusXM radio show that they do together
brought it up.
Yeah, and then Rick Allen spilled the beans and threw Junior under the bus. It was a funny thing.
I agree with him, though.
I agree with him, too. I love
Steve Letarte is just great.
I love Larry Mack. He's sacred in the NASCAR world. He's a legend in the NASCAR world, but goddamn, man, Steve Letarte's coming for his lunch.
Yeah. Just the way he makes some mundane shit exciting. You know, like fuel mileage races could be boring if you don't have the right calls. And him, Jeff Byrne, I think all those guys do a great job. And yeah. So
with you guys to the most part, but until Larry Mack is gone and he's still giving us that Ford cutaway car, Larry Mack is America's cream, buddy.
Okay.
I'll tell you that right now. Right. He's nipping on his heels, but until he's gone, that Ford cutaway car belongs to Larry Mack.
All right, I'll give you that.
I can't argue it.
So was that all you had for your checkers? Did you have more to add to that?
Yes, no, that was it. That was perfect. Matt, obviously with the battery thing that went along with the excitement of that battle. But my wreckers, Matt hinted to it a little bit earlier. Not much to wreck. So, I'm going to have to go with me. And me saying that I was kind of over super speedways and, they didn't really do much for me anymore.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong, because that race it brought me back. Like Matt said, I can't wait for the next one now. The horsepower reduction, I think, helped with the passing and the cars being more comfortable around one another. They're not on edge as much as they usually are.
Yeah.
They needed to be pushed by another car in order to work really well. But who cares? Push. And I think you see who, like you mentioned, Whitey, who the good pushers are, who can get pushed. Because Corey LaJoie and there was Landon Castle, some of those guys, they didn't know how to get pushed all that well. Neither did Ross Chastain, I felt like. Yeah. And that's why he was like, some of those moves that Matt was saying, like, I think it's just because he wasn't comfortable, being pushed or being in that pack, But Denny, certain cars, he was smashing into the back of them and really pushing them out. And, that lead car, most of the time, it went out way too far ahead.
Like
that caused all the other action to come blowing by him. And it just super speedway. That race really brought my love back.
Was Denny the one that pushed Harvick way out to the lead?
Yeah. I thought Harvick was just say it, boom.
Yeah.
God. God.
I tell you what, Denny is good for pushing guys on super speedways and not being selfish, because that's what you have to do. You have to play ball.
He got really aggressive in that moment, Whitey. Now that I think of it, he was kind of in maybe like 10th or somewhere like that. And then all of a sudden, push this guy. He moved to another lane. Push that guy, moved to another lane. He was almost pushing those guys out in front of him.
So he could make his own way.
So he could make his own way through. Here, get out of my way. Here, get out of my way. Because that car did go out pretty far when they did get pushed. So, you almost did not want to be in the lead.
And that's the game you got to play. And that's what makes you an elite super speedway racer. And Denny Hamlin's an elite super speedway racer. No doubt about it. I mean, back-to-back Daytona 500s for the last couple of years. Yeah. What was I going to say?
That was right. I repped myself.
So I'm wondering if just the placement of the race with everything going on, like early on in the season, we were talking about what was the big storyline? New winners. What's going to happen if we get 16 different winners? We didn't need 16 different winners. We got, 13 different winners. 2 guys were locked in, and then there was 1 spot to fight for at Daytona, and it gave us a great battle regardless of who was in those last 2 spots. It could have been Kurt Busch battling Matt DiBenedetto for that 16th spot, and it would have been just as exciting as it was to watch Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon battle for it. And I think it's just the placement of the races. Maybe the placement of the races have more to do with the excitement than the race itself. What do you think about that? Do you think that's an accurate statement?
I mean, because like you said, I think it was going to be good kind of no matter what. Like, I don't really know if the placement matters all that much.
But watching the race that we just saw, would it be as good on July 4th weekend, knowing we
so.
have a whole other half a season to go.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it just becomes another good speedway race. I don't think it's that A+ race. I think it's an A race where it's like, oh, it's a great speedway race. But I think all the little implications, the storylines that add to it.
Yeah, they matter, Whitey, for sure. But I don't know. I like the product on track.
So do
I liked the bump and the tandem, drafting happening. And people almost forced to have to work with somebody, because if you didn't, you weren't going to get out front. You weren't going to make passes. I think all that stuff definitely makes it that A+, that no doubt factor. Maybe if it was earlier in the year, maybe it would have gotten that A. Okay, maybe it could have been an A- or something. But I definitely think it still would have been up there as far as the product on the racetrack for me, anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the race was fantastic, whether it was in March or December or now. It doesn't. I thought the race was great. But I will say that the added playoff implications and the uncertainty, all that combined going into Daytona, just produces this tornado of excitement, leading into that race. And I don't ever want to see that. NASCAR over the past, I would say, I don't know, 7 or 8 years has made some amazing choices. One is the playoffs. I love the playoffs. 2 is I really like the choose cone rule. And then 3 is putting Daytona at the last race of the regular season. I think it's phenomenal.
All right. I'm going to do, I agree with you 100%. I'm going to do my checkers, and it's the same exact checkers that I had for the Indy road course. And it goes to Tyler Reddick's crew chief, Randall Burnett, and the whole entire crew. Instead, it wasn't Michael McDowell pulling the Dukes of Hazzards. But it's the same story from Indy Road Course. Reddick knocked out that oil cooler, getting into the back of Martin Truex Jr. Nowhere to go. He was down on the apron, just got sandwiched in between them. It was smoking. I was losing my mind. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. I'm listening to the radio. They're like, check your oil pressure. Oil pressure is good. They're like, cut your engine. I'm like, okay, pressure's good. Then it's probably the oil cooler. Same exact thing. It's just oil burning off the headers. They got them fixed up under the clock. They patched up whatever had to get patched up, threw them out there, kept them going, kept them in the race. Austin Dillon at this point, killing it, running top 5, deservedly, just destroying it. And I'm still watching, though. I'm watching the points battle. And they're still separated by 5 points. Reddick is +5. Austin Dillon needs to win the race. Randall Burnett and the crew got him in the playoffs by getting that car back out there. They got lucky that it was something they could fix on pit road, but they got it done under the time. They got him back out there. They calmed him down, and we got to see that great battle. And of course, later on, Austin Dillon involved in that last lap wreck there. And all hell broke loose, but absolutely got to give the checkers to Tyler Reddick's crew.
Oh, yeah. And Whitey, you know what? Luck is part of it, man. Luck is always part of every race. When you're out there, you either get the good end of it or the bad end of it. And I think this is a good time, to finally say, hey, buddy, congratulations.
You're in.
Tyler,
thank you.
Is in the playoffs. and for now, the stress is
just
over.
A little bit. It's cool. We got one week, and then in the next 2 weeks, we'll see how it goes. I tell you what, though, watching the race, I was like, I wouldn't even be mad if Austin Dillon made it in, because he deserves it. He was racing his ass off all Saturday night.
I was going to say that too, Whitey. That he raced, the way he raced, it was deserved. If he got in because some shitty thing happened and he just so happened to squeak out in front of Reddick, okay. But they were both wheeling those cars around, and it was just fun to watch.
I was nervous in the beginning of the race because Reddick was saying kind of near the back of the pack for the first stage. I'm like, oh, is something wrong? Because by then Austin Dillon was running in the top 5 for a good majority of the race. I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't good. And then he comes on his radio. He goes, I could start driving aggressive if I have to. I go, okay, that's what I like to hear. And then stage 2, he ran up there, got some stage points. I'm like, okay, we're in good shape. They've got a plan. And of course it worked out for him. My wreckers, Like you guys allude to, it was really hard to come up with the records. At first, I was going to say no records. It was a perfect race. I enjoyed every minute of it. But I will rec NBC affiliates, not NBC, but some of the affiliates decided to show preseason football instead of the NASCAR race. And I just felt bad for the fans in those markets. I know Harrisburg in Pennsylvania was one of those markets. They didn't get to see the race. Some DC was another market that didn't get to see the race. And there was a handful of others. I know some of them tried to make something happen where they would put it on like a sister station, like the CW or whatever. And again, not NBC's fault. It's the NBC affiliates that make those calls. It's kind of like sometimes there'll be like a race on a Sunday, but they'll show infomercials on that channel because they already sold it to the infomercials for more money than the NASCAR races ad revenue would give to them. So I get it. It's one of those calls. I think it sucks for the fans. You know,
I couldn't imagine me turning on my TV on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Just sat down, cracked open my first beer, getting ready for a long night of NASCAR racing, turning on NBC and seeing a preseason NFL game.
Yeah.
I would have burnt the town down if that happened to me. I'd be so pissed off.
Now, anyone could have streamed it on the app, though, on the NBC Sports.
It would have been
app.
out of principle.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think that's absolutely outrageous. Like, I think preseason football is the dumbest thing in the world. Anyways, like, what's the point?
Eric and I are two of the biggest football fans you'll meet, and I can give a shit less about preseason football.
Nobody does. Like, let's watch the second and third string
practice.
Play. Yeah,
it's glorified practice for the coaches to see who they're going to cut for the final roster. That's all it really is.
But yeah, I mean, hard to come up with the records. I thought it was a great race. If I had to do another records, it would be Kurt Busch. He got into the back of Daniel Suarez. Suarez hooked Harvick, really caused that big one. I don't know what Kurt Busch was trying to accomplish there, but it looked like he flat out dumped him. I don't know what happened between the three.
It all happened in front of those guys.
Yeah.
It started actually with Stenhouse. I think if this is the wreck you're talking about, Stenhouse.
It was that final wreck.
Yeah, it was. It started like people in front of them were getting into. It was kind of one of those chain reaction ordeals where everyone there's where you're going to go.
Nowhere to go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nowhere to go.
I thought it was interesting, though. Suarez was there in the end, like going for a win. He could have easily won that race. He was caught up in the first wreck where you saw him going through the grass and stuff through that first one with Martin Truex Jr. So I was surprised to see him back up, like aerodynamically, just like, oh man, like it was surprising to see some of the guys that made it to the end near that last wreck before, of course, all hell broke loose. Bubba Wallace, another one of those guys, he made his way. He was running up in the top 10 for a lot of the day. He got himself his best career finish in a second place in the Cup Series. It was the third place before Chris Buescher got disqualified. And that reminds me, early on in that race, all those sparks coming off that 17 Chris Buescher car. I was at Trey's house and I just kept going.
Race long.
Yeah.
Race long he had it.
I kept going. I go, man, that car's fast. Cause like they say, when you're at a super speedway, if you see sparks, that's because you're low to the ground, you're going fast. But apparently that track bar mount was a little too low, rubbing that whole entire race and wore itself down to where it was illegal by the end of the race. And that's, of course, why he got disqualified after post-race inspection. But
more tire pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Get it up a little bit. Get it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. We didn't see as much teamwork when it came to the manufacturers as we have seen in the past. Of course, I think it was 2019.
Yes,
well, the Fords all pitted together, but we didn't see that Chevy-Toyota alliance as much as I thought we would.
I'm not talking about pit strategy and staying. I'm talking about working with a teammate. I thought we talk about Austin Dillon with the battery. Tyler Reddick has to fix that oil cooler. How about Chase Elliott working with William Byron midway through that race to get that debris off of the front grille? That was executed flawlessly. At a super speedway, that's not easy to do because William Byron had to get into position himself so that when Chase jumped out, he had to slow up, let Chase in so that Chase could then go up.
Yeah.
William had to push Chase into the car in front of him at a super speedway going 190 miles an hour. Not easy to choreograph out there, you know? So I did think that was pretty impressive as far as, you know, the teammates and everyone working well with one another.
I always think it's aesthetically pleasing to watch that debris get sucked off the
It's
grill.
real neat.
I love watching
neat,
it. I don't know what it is. It's like one of those things.
Because you never know when it's actually going to happen, and then all of a sudden that wind just catches it perfectly, and it goes flying up past the little headlight and everything. It is real neat looking.
And Christopher Bell, Truex had to do the same thing, and you know, they executed it well too. So like teammates, you know, maybe they didn't work with each other as far as helping each other, you know, on pit road, but you know, there are other aspects. You still need that teammate.
I was just surprised because in 2019, especially, they made a big deal where all the Chevys were riding straight in a row together. The Toyotas were kind of like left to their own devices. They would pick whoever they could work with. And then the Fords were just on a straight line by themselves. This time we saw the Fords all pit once together. Of course, the Chevys and Toyotas, they kept staying out there. I don't know what would have happened if those cautions didn't come out. I don't know how long they would keep waiting for. But at a certain point, it got to the point where the Fords kind of pitted too early. And if the Chevys all pitted together, the Fords wouldn't have been able to catch up regardless, which I thought was very interesting. Maybe that was the strategy they were trying to come up with off the top. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Bubba even said the same thing, though, in his post-race. He said something where, like, the Toyotas really didn't work with him, which I thought was kind of false because he was up front in the mix with Denny and Kyle Busch, I think, for most of the day. So I don't know, maybe he perceived it a little bit differently. I don't know what was going on there. I'm sure his team owner, Denny Hamlin, wasn't too happy with those post-race comments, though, where he said the Toyotas really didn't work with him. So I don't know. But other than that, you guys have anything else to add to the weekend at Daytona?
I mean, to hit on what you were saying there at the end real quick, I think Steve Letarte did mention that he thought that Toyotas and Chevys were kind of burying Ford, like saying, hey, Ford, this is your strategy. Well, this is going to be your strategy now. You know what I mean? Because
you're stuck
Chase
with
Elliott, you're stuck with it because Chase Elliott, he actually radioed in. He wanted to come down pit road.
Yeah.
Like he was like, hey, like we're all in a line. Like this is the best we're ever going to be. There's all bow ties down here. What are we waiting for?
Reddick had some confusion on his radio too, where he was like, oh, I thought we were going, like, you know.
Yeah. So like, I think it was all the spotters I think they were just trying to bury the Fords.
Maybe.
Like
we've seen Chevy and Toyota do that in the past at super speedways too. Get kind of on. Remember, it was a couple years ago at one of them, Talladega or Daytona, where the bow ties and the Toyotas pretty much worked together. They pitted at the same time.
I want to say it was at the 500 with all the cars that were left too. Wasn't there something weird with some pit strategy? And
they've done it.
And
they've
the
done
Fords
it multiple times before to get Ford off, because there's a lot of Fords out in the field too, and there's not a lot of Toyotas. And so I think I want to say it was a couple years ago when like Ford was absolutely dominating.
Yeah.
The Chevy and Toyota did it just to kind of get them off their game.
All right. Well, that's the Daytona race weekend here at the Bump and Run podcast. Everyone talks about the winner, Ryan Blaney, but we like to talk about the last place finisher too. And it was one Chris Buescher, originally finished in second, but was DQ'd. Of course, I told you about that track bar mount. And man, that thing was scraping hard. Originally, though, the last place guy was our Daytona 500 winner, Michael McDowell. He got caught up in that first wreck, and he never made it back out onto the track. I thought that was pretty interesting. Finished the 500 first, and then finished the summer race last. You know, you kind of bookend the season right there. But Chris Buescher had a different plan in mind, and he lost himself a whole bunch of spots.
That paint scheme that Buescher had, I couldn't look away fast enough.
What do you have, the fifth third bank?
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby
what
blue,
a dumb
yellow,
name for a bank too. The fifth third bank. Like what? You're either the fifth or you're the third. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe it was on 3rd Street or something. That's the fifth one they built on 3rd Street.
Trash.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you want to what? I tell you what, that McDowell paint scheme was pretty cool. That blue and orange carparts.com one. I like that.
paint scheme was pretty cool too.
I thought the Eric Jones paint scheme was sick.
Yeah. And he like tandemed it with Bubba Wallace. They both had like a similar go fishing tournament or something.
Well, they both had the Columbia Sportswear sponsorship this week, and they had the special. Maybe I wonder if they coordinated that to give Columbia some exposure, getting nose to tail there, showing off those cars. But yeah,
sweet looking rides.
Oh yeah, definitely. Bubba's car reminded me of the ocean, where it's like that dark blue into light blue into like the sand, you know?
The sand, yeah.
And you know what? I have to throw it out there. Eric Jones, I'm always happy with him at super speedways. So like he knows how to save and maintain his car to be there at the end, because at the end he was in ninth.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like he's usually there at the end of these super speedway races, and you know, he won a July Daytona race, and you know, like he gives me hope in the future, being there, Richard Petty, and super speedways in general too. So yeah, I'm all for the super speedway train.
Hey, who knows with that new car? Maybe he's a Daytona 500 winner coming up.
We're going to Darlington this weekend. You're gonna like some of the stats I have for you.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And like Matt said, we are heading into Darlington, but first, we got one pick lane. I think I already know the answer. This is the second year that the Daytona Super Speedway race ended the regular season. Do we keep it?
Nah, it blew. Nah.
That's
yes, keep it. Oh yeah, let's go.
That's what I thought. And this week we are heading to Darlington for the historic Southern 500 Saturday Night Xfinity Series 330 for the Sports Clips Haircut VFW Help a Hero 200. That's going to be on NBCSN. We got a doubleheader on Sunday. Trucks take the track 1:30 p.m. for the In It to Win It 200. That's going to be on FS1. And of course, the Cup Series on track Sunday night, Labor Day weekend for the Cookout Southern 500 on NBCSN. According to Bob Pogress's math, your top 10 is going to be 1, Ryan Blaney. Number 2, James Dennis Hamlin. Number 3, Kurt Busch, followed by Chase Elliott. Row number 3, 5th place, Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson. Your 7th place, Tyler Reddick. 8th, Eric Almirola. 9th, Kevin Harvick. And rounding out the top 10, Martin Truex Jr. Can Truex win at Darlington? He runs great at Darlington. But Matt, you got the stats. Let's break it all down.
Yeah, I will back up that statement about Truex running good at Darlington. I found a couple stats here. One really jumped off the page to me here. Did you guys know that this is the first time that Ryan Blaney is heading into Darlington
with multiple wins?
Multiple-time winner in a single season.
You want to know what? That's pretty surprising. But you want to know what? He's been sneaky good all season long.
Somewhere around a 6.5 place finish
over the last 10 finishes. Yeah.
So here we go. So it's like I always do. The last 4 races, we hit Darlington up 3 times last year because of the pandemic, and then 1 from earlier this year. So those wins came from Harvick won 2 out of those 3 last year at Darlington. Dennis won the 3rd one last year, and then Martin Truex Jr. won the May race of this year at Darlington. Going to be a different story though. You know, as we know, Harvick isn't running that great, and Martin Truex Jr. won earlier this year, but it was a day race, so a little different when the sun goes down. Average finishes inside the top 10 out of the last 4 at Darlington. Kevin Harvick at 2.8, Dennis with a 6th place average finish, Eric Jones, EJ with an 8.8, Kyle Busch with a 9.5, Truex with a 9.8, and to round it out, Logano with an even 10th place average finish there. And then my favorite stat, I'm almost at the point now where this is the only stat that I even want to give. It's the top 5 most points accumulated out of the last 4 races. So we've got
that. Love it.
Me too, man. Me too. So Harvick with 180 points. Martin Truex Jr. and Dennis are tied with 178. So right behind Harvick with those points accumulations. A surprising one, Bowman with 145 points accumulated.
Okay. Again, those stage points.
Yeah. Logano with 132 points, Kyle Busch with 126, and then a bonus for Daytona Ron, and only because it was 1 point behind Kyle Busch, is EJ, Eric Jones, with 125 points accumulated. So he's right there with the elites here the last several races. So that's those are the stats, guys.
All right, and to review last week, our picks were, Eric, you came in first. You picked Austin Dillon to win the race. He got you 34 points. Matt, you chose James Dennis Hamlin, and he got you 33 points. So just lost out by 1 point there. And I picked Joey Logano, who was having a great night until his tire went down. He got me 27 points. He put me in last place, which means I pick first. Followed by Matt and then Eric. And I want to pick Martin Truex Jr. He, of course, won the spring race. I think he's going to run really well. But I'm not going to. I'm going to pick James Hamlin because I still can't believe that Denny hasn't won a race. I thought he was going to win. I thought Denny was going to do it in Daytona. I think Denny's going to do it in Darlington. I think that's the headline on Monday. And we'll see if it comes true. Of course, he's starting on the front row. It's a long race. It's a veteran's race. It's one of those long rules that I think a veteran is going to win. And I think it's going to be Denny.
So am I up?
Yep, you're up.
Yeah.
I am going with, I have to play catch up here. Not that I will catch up, but I am going with one Martin Truex Jr.
Okay. All right, Eric, who are you going with?
Since some of those stats kind of reflect stats of, other
Old
races
cars.
too, like Harvick and, even Eric Jones.
Yeah. Also different race lengths and everything too.
Yeah. You'd love to go with those stats, but you know how Harvick's been, no win. I mean, even Denny, he's run well, but still.
I tell you what, though. So I believe they're running the high horsepower package, and Ford has done well with that high horsepower package. So, this could be the weekend that Harvick gets a win. I don't know.
Truex, if it's that 750, I think every race he wins with the 750 package.
Yeah, he's another one that does great.
Yeah, solid pick with Truex.
He's thinking. It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous when Eric thinks.
I know. Because honest to God, normally I have a gut feeling and I just go with it.
Yeah. This is a tough one. It's tough.
It is.
I have a gut feeling. It's playoffs. Not much talked about. He absolutely hates super speedway, so he couldn't wait to get to next week. And that is Mr. Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch. Okay.
Take that 18 car.
We just did it again.
The same three? No way. No way.
Dude, second week in a row.
Well, you want to know what? I feel like Denny and MTJ were locks picks for this week. I'm surprised that you had Kyle Busch down there.
I was leaning towards Kyle Busch for the exact same reasons, because he's gonna be locked in, man. He had that amazing vacation. He had that amazing vacation a couple weeks ago. He's had a couple road courses and Daytona, so now it's down to crunch time. I really like that Kyle Busch pick.
I forget exactly where. I didn't look past the top 10, but I believe he's starting in either like 11th or 12th place too. So he does have a good starting position for this race going in. So yeah, I think those are great picks all around. Darlington's a little bit of a wild card too, though, with such how long it is, where some guys could try some different strategy. Kevin Harvick won the Southern 500 last year, and I didn't expect him to win going into it. Like when we were watching the race, like stage one, I didn't think Harvick was going to do it. Austin Dillon did really good at the Southern 500 last year. He was another guy I didn't really expect. He wasn't running up front until the end of the race.
Really well. He ran really well. Yeah.
You know who makes me sneaky nervous? Kurt
Busch. Yeah. You want to know what? And you want to know what? He could pull an upset win, lock himself into round 12. I'm expecting. We got a little bit of a time. Do you want to go off and see who we think is going to make it into the round of 12? I got the playoffs
Didn't
picture
we do
right
this?
now. We did, but I mean,
I could do it. I have to pull up my list real quick here, but yeah, we could do it.
So I'm just going to rattle them off, and then you guys could be like, yeah, I don't think he's going to make it in. Kyle Larson is starting the playoff picture in first with 47 points to good. Martin Truex Jr., 19 points to good. In third, Ryan Blaney has 19 points to good. So they're tied for second and third. Kyle Busch is fourth place in the playoff picture with 17 points to the good. Chase Elliott is in fifth with 16 points to the good. Alex Bowman is in sixth with 10 points. Hamlin's in seventh with 10 points. William Byron is in eighth with 9 points. Joey Logano is in ninth with 8 points. Brad Keselowski is in 10th with 3 points. Kurt Busch is in 11th with 3 points. Michael McDowell is dead even in 12th. Christopher Bell is even in 13th. Eric Almirola is even in 14th. Tyler Reddick is negative 2 points to good. And then Kevin Harvick rounding out the top 16. He is negative 3 points in the playoff picture. Who do you guys think out of all those? I think McDowell doesn't make it. I was thinking Bell doesn't, but I think he might run pretty consistent and make it into the round of 12. Almirola, I think, is out. I thought Kurt Busch might make it out. I think Reddick might make it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think those guys at the bottom, like, the McDowell, Almirola, right off the bat.
They're right off the bat. It's those last two spots. They're hard to call here.
It is. It gets tough to call, but I always like to take one big dog out. And, not that he's a super big dog, but I kind of agree with the Christopher Bell thing. I kind of think that he's just not performing, like he was earlier in the season. And I think he's one of them that's definitely going to go out for sure.
See, yeah, I feel like I'm sleeping on Christopher Bell looking at this, though. I feel like his finishes the last couple races have been better than I'm thinking. What are you saying, Matt?
I filled out my bracket, and I have going out in the first round. I mean, Almirola and McDowell. And then someone who I just said I'm kind of worried about this weekend, but I haven't getting knocked out anyway. Kurt Busch. I just don't know if the consistency is there.
Yeah.
And then just like Eric said, one big dog, not one major dog, but William Byron. I don't know
Byron's
why.
going to go out?
I have a bad feeling. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I have a bad feeling. I will say this though too, is that Bobby Pockrass released his favorite to make it to the round of 4, to that final round in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And we have the same 4 in Larson, MTJ, Hamlin, and Elliott. So I thought that was good company to be in there. And
I don't know. I think William Byron's a lock for the round of 12. I mean, he's got 9+ playoff points. I don't know. I don't think he gets knocked out in the first round.
To be fair,
unless it's by wins.
I have the timestamp. I took a picture of my bracket. I filled this out on August 2nd. So, it's not manipulated or anything. I like doing this every year just to see, how close I get to what actually happened. So.
All right. Well, I don't know. I guess
we'll see.
I guess we'll see. It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks. Playoffs are here. 26 races in. And we have the top 16. I just read them off. Larson, Truex, Blaney, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, Eric Almirola, Tyler Reddick, and Kevin Harvick are your 16 playoff drivers. Who will win in Darlington? Will it be Martin Truex Jr.? Will it be Denny Hamlin? Will it be Kyle Busch? Will somebody other than a Joe Gibbs racer win the Cookout Southern 500? We will find out this Sunday night, 6 p.m. NBCSN. And we'll break it all down for you, not Monday, because it's Labor Day, and we're not doing no labor on Monday. We'll record on Tuesday night. We'll talk to you then. We'll break it all down. For Matt, the Statman Reilly, for Eric, Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
Bump and dump and run.